On this episode of Locked On Angels, the Angels go 1-5 on this road trip against two last place teams. They gave up 2 out of 3 against the Cubs this weekend. They can't hit, then they can, and then they can't again. So why is that? We're going to discuss it as we recap this Angels Cubs series. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, it is. And yes, we are. Thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you want to give back to the Super Halo Bros for all the Super Halo content, there's a couple things you can do for us. You can leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcast. You can hit that thumbs up button and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Whether you're watching or listening, come on over to YouTube, leave a comment. It's the best way to get in touch with us and be part of the conversation. And today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Tax Network USA. Did you know that it's never too late to resolve your tax issues with the IRS? Don't wait. Reduce your tax debt and get help from a team of licensed tax professionals by calling 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/locked on. Hey, we appreciate you making Locked On Angels your first listen every single day. This is Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch brothers here with you normally. My name is John, and my brother Mike is taking his daughter to Disneyland with the family today, so they are out having themselves a good time. Listen, we've been fans of this team for years. We've been through the Angels through thick and thin. I say it all the time. There's a lot of thin right now, but you know what? There's some good things on the horizon, and we'll talk about that. But first, this is our third season here at Locked On Angels, and we're recapping the weekend series against the Cubs. Of course, we're here Monday through Friday talking Angels baseball every single day. And on today's show, we are recapping that weekend series because it was not great. It was a tough series in Chicago at Wrigley Field. Now, I got a soft spot in my heart for the Cubbies, and being at Wrigley Field, I got to go there with my wife a couple of years ago and take a tour of the stadium, and that was super great. I got called out for wearing a Cubs shirt on the show the other day, but I was still wearing my Angels hat. I'll never not wear my Angels hat. But let's get into the games from this weekend. Friday's game was a loss. It was a 5-1 loss. Now, before the game, we got the news that the Angels selected the contract of Keston Hiura. We had just got through talking about him last week, and he came up sooner than Mike and I expected. And the reason why is because they had to place Luis Rengifo on the 10-day injured list, retroactive to July 4th. Remember, he swung the bat, shook out his hand a little bit. There was some right wrist inflammation for Luis Rengifo. Then Andrew Wantz had to go to the 60-day injured list, so he's dealing with some issues as well. He got into one game last week and got hurt, which is really unfortunate. But as we get into Friday's game, it was Griffin Canning on the mound. Now, Canning did what he's done over this entire season. Quick 2 outs, then a single, then a home run from Seiya Suzuki, who's a big Mike Trout fan, by the way. 1 walk and another single. 30 pitches for Griffin Canning in the first inning. And no, I'm not talking about a different game. I'm talking about Friday's game. But if it sounds familiar, this is what Griffin Canning does. In fact, in the first season, or I should say in the first inning this season, he surrendered 8 home runs and 21 earned runs in the first inning. He's allowed 18 runs with 1 or 2 outs in the first inning. His ERA is over 10 in the first inning as well. So at this point, after the first, the Cubs led the Angels 2-0. The Cubs added a 3rd run in the 3rd inning off of Griffin Canning. He actually left in the bottom of the 5th, going 4 1/3 innings pitched, giving up 4 earned runs, 6 hits, 2 walks, and 4 Ks on 89 pitches. Canning really struggled putting hitters away in this game. That seems to be the case with Griffin Canning. He just can't finish the inning. He gets those 2 outs rather quickly sometimes and then just lets things spiral for him. He doesn't really seem to have that out pitch. Now, it wouldn't have mattered anyway because the Angels have not been hitting lately. And this goes back into their series where they got swept with the A's. The Halos came into this game with an 18-inning scoreless streak. Because of that, Ron Washington decided to shuffle the lineup just a little bit, try to get some chemistry going here, try to get some cohesiveness. Well, didn't really work, guys. So Taylor Ward led off in this one. Keston Hiura, of course, got into this one. He batted 8th as the DH. After going over 22 innings without a run, the Halos got on the board in the 5th with an RBI single by Taylor Ward. The problem is that the offense, is layered, but here's one major issue. The Angels have not been seeing any pitches. They let Joey Estes of the A's throw a complete game shutout on 92 pitches. And on Friday against Justin Steele, who traditionally is a better starter than Joey Estes, well, he only needed 95 pitches for a complete game against the Angels. So I say it on here on our video side, but the topic for Friday's discussion is the Angels get complete gamed again on Friday, because it was the second time in a week that they let that happen, which is just unacceptable. It's the second complete game against the Angels for a pitcher who didn't even have to go 100 pitches. And so really there was not a stressful inning for Justin Steele. Lots of early swings from the Halos, lots of bad swings at balls that weren't hittable. So that was the issue the Angels ran into on Friday, and that was continuing on from what happened to them against the A's and Joey Estes earlier in the week. So bottom of the 6th, the Cubs are now leading 4-1. Ward had a play where he looked to dive, but just kind of fell and then laid there before getting back up. He ripped up his wrist. The runner doubled because Ward tried to dive. And after that double, the Cubs added another 2-out run. In fact, all Cubs runs were scored with 2 outs. They led 5-1. That ended up being the final score. This was the Halos' 5th loss in a row after losing the finale to the Tigers last Sunday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they got swept by the A's. Then Friday, they get complete gamed by Justin Steele. Now, Locked On Angels Hall of Famer Brett McGuire, former host of the show, tweeted that during these 5 losses, the Angels have been outscored 29-12. And listen to this. They have a 5.18 team OPS and a 5.71 ERA. Gee, I wonder why things didn't go so well for the Angels last week. What is it about this road trip that they lost all momentum coming out of that homestand where, they swept the A's and they took 3 or 4 from the Tigers. And look, I know it's the A's and the Tigers, but you just got through playing the A's last week. And so why did you let them sweep you this past week? Doesn't make any sense to me. I don't quite understand where all the momentum went, but it definitely fell out the window of the airplane as the Angels were flying up to Oakland and then to Chicago. But the point still stands. 2 complete games in the same week pitched against the Angels from the opposing starter. And it has everything to do with their approach at the plate. Too many first pitch swings, too many at-bats that are over too quickly because they put the first pitch in play and it's a ground out or a fly out. Now, look, I understand sometimes at Wrigley Field it's a day game. You've got the wind coming off the Great Lakes out there, and it's the Windy City, right? And so sometimes you're going to hit things up in the air and they're not going to go all the way out past the wall. They're going to die on the warning track. They're going to die in the outfield. And we'll see more of that in Sunday's game. But there's a little more weather in Sunday's game, by the way. But all that to say, nothing was falling in for the Halos. And again, just too many quick outs, letting these starters just cruise. The Angels rarely make pitchers uncomfortable. It always seems that if a pitcher gets themselves into a situation, it's on the Angels to make them uncomfortable rather than the pitcher being uncomfortable himself. Now, the pitcher is the one in trouble, not the hitter at the plate. And I think that's something the Angels fail to understand. So again, Justin Steele, 1 run, complete game against the Halos, 5-1 loss on Friday. Very unfortunate. Now, as they roll into Saturday, things picked up a little bit. We're going to talk about that in just a second, but I want to thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. The Angels are playing the Rangers at home. Thank goodness that they're home. Get those boys home, get them on a plane, get them off this road trip, because it has been terrible. You can catch every pitch of the Angels hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Angels. Coming up on Locked On Angels, we'll talk about how the Halos were able to turn it around on Saturday and then went right back to the very same thing on Sunday. We'll talk about all of that coming right up. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks. Listen, you guys know I love my fantasy baseball, but the problem is you're stuck with a team all season long. I've got Tatis on the IL, Schwarber's on the IL, supposed to come back tomorrow, Max Muncy, Luis Rengifo, who I just traded for. It's insane. And so the beauty of Prize Picks is that it's America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 5 million members. It's the most fun, exciting way to get in on the action. Watch your favorite teams, your favorite players. You can win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000, and you're not stuck on the players that you choose. You can pick new players every single day. You just need to pick more or less on 2 to 6 players, stat projections, and you're locked in. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, first inning runs, take your pick of more or less, add them to your Prize Picks lineup today. And Prize Picks now offers Apple Pay for quick and easy deposits into your bank account this season. So download the app today, enter our promo code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match of up to $100. Again, that's code LOCKEDONMLB, all lowercase, all one word, and get that first deposit match of up to $100. Join Prize Picks today. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. And today's show is brought to you by our friends at Tax Network USA. Just because tax season is over doesn't mean the IRS will stop coming for you for those unfiled taxes. They can garnish your wages, they can levy your bank accounts, even seize your property, maybe in Texas. I almost said Texas. But don't let the IRS target you. Let the licensed professionals and tax experts at Tax Network USA go to bat for you. With over 14 years experience and an A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau, Tax Network USA has saved their clients over $1 billion in tax debt. So whether you owe taxes, maybe you got some complicated matters like you have your own business, or you need some tax planning, maybe you even hit that parlay this season and you need help filing that correctly, all you got to do is call 1-800-549-1000 or visit the website tnusa.com/lockedon. This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day and everydayers. If you haven't made the switch yet, you got to check out Locked On Sports Today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program just for you to bring you the biggest stories of the day across the sports world. They bring you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news on Locked On Sports Today. In fact, it's streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. And speaking of your team every day, the Angels get some interdivisional matchups tonight against the Rangers, 6:38 Pacific time at home. You can catch every pitch of the Angels hometown broadcast on SiriusXM with the SXM app. Just search Angels. Now, I talked about the anemic offense on Friday, but then the Angels turn it around on Saturday. They win this one 7-0, a shutout of their own. We got word as fans before the game from Jeff Fletcher of the OC Register that Ron Washington wanted the Angels to not have batting practice on the field this weekend because he thought they needed a mental break. Now, hitting coach Johnny Washington disagreed, so the Angels took BP that day. And the question was, coming into this game, was that going to help? Well, we'll talk about that. Also, they moved some pieces around. Nolan Shawnuel was back at the top of the lineup. Keston Hero is batting second. By the way, shout out to Kevin Pillar, who celebrated 10 years of service time on Saturday. He gave a speech beforehand. Bo Porter said it was movie-like. So maybe they played the Moneyball home run music under that. But is that going to help? Did the BP help? Is Kevin Pillar celebrating 10 years? Is that going to help? Well, let's talk about it. Top of the first, Shawnuel started with a 9-pitch walk. Keston Hiura followed with a bloop single. Ward singled, but Shawnuel fell down rounding third base, and he also fell at second base in the same inning. So I think he was wearing 2 left shoes, I think is what he said on the broadcast afterward. And I even tweeted, change your shoes, Nolan, like something's wrong here. So that made the bases loaded for Willie Calhoun. He struck out looking on a curveball. Ohapi was up next. He actually got hit by a pitch, but that brought in the run. That became an RBI for Logan Ohapi. Next up was Mickey Moniak. He flew out to right, and Hiura got thrown out at home. So the bases loaded, nobody out. They only got 1 run because Logan Ohapi got hit by a pitch. So you're thinking, oh, great. Here we go again. Here we are. The same Angels get the bases loaded with nobody out, and they're only able to muster the 1 run. But top of the second with 2 outs, Joe Adell took a walk. Shawnuel singled. Hiura singled, and Adell scores. By the way, Shawnuel didn't fall this time. He stayed on his feet. With Ward at the plate, Keston Hiura gets thrown out stealing. So the Angels only get 1 run again, but it was the top of the second. So a nice little 2-0 going on there. Now, this is key because for the Cubs, Kyle Hendricks wasn't great, and the Halos were on his pitches. So at this point, they're starting to change their approach at the plate. I talked about Nolan Shawnuel's 9-pitch walk. I mean, that's a far cry from what these guys were doing just the day before on Friday. Kyle Hendricks comes out of the game with back stiffness in the top of the third. So then Colton Brewer came in for the Cubs. I don't know if it's a good idea to have somebody named Brewer pitching for the Cubs. And I think that proved to be true because Taylor Ward took a walk. Ball 4 went over his head. Taylor Ward was clearly frustrated with that. And I don't blame him because guys have been pitching him inside all season long, especially in the most recent few games. These guys are throwing inside to Taylor Ward, and it's not too inside to where it's always dangerous, but a pitch like this over his head, I can see why he would be upset. I'll talk about Ward later on in game 3. But Willie Calhoun followed with a hard hit back to the pitcher. Brewer threw it into center field, so that allowed Ward to go to third. Calhoun was at first. Ohapi had a chance, and he singles. That drives in Ward, so that's his second RBI for Logan Ohapi in this game. Moniak had a chance, and listen to this. He took the first pitch. He didn't swing. And I think I just cut through last week saying somebody needs to tell that guy, hey, don't swing at the first pitch. You're not doing that anymore. So maybe somebody heard Locked On Angels and then communicated that to Moniak. But it was good to see him actually take a pitch. Moniak grounded out to first, but it did move the runners up to second and third. Zach Neto came up. He had a check swing, RBI single to center field. That scored Willie Calhoun. Neto stole second, and Ohapi, who was at third, was able to score. The throw to second was low and got away from Dansby Swanson. Meanwhile, Luis Guillorme walked, so that put runners at first and second. While Adell was up with the Halos, they get a double steal. Neto went to third, Guillorme went to second. Adell popped out to the infield, so there's 2 outs here for Nolan Shawnuel. He gets hit on the foot, the same foot that he fouled the ball off 1 pitch earlier. So not only did he fall twice, but he gets hit in the foot after fouling a ball off of his foot. So that loaded the bases for Keston Hiura. Unfortunately, he grounded out. The Angels didn't hit the ball very hard, but they hit the ball in the right spots on Saturday. They scored 3 that inning, and they led by 5 at that point. The exit velocity for the Halos in that inning, listen to this, 72 miles per hour up to 89 miles per hour. So nothing really hard hit there, just good placement of the ball and working counts and putting the pitcher, Colton Brewer, in trouble. Again, don't put somebody named Brewer on the Cubs. Terrible idea. Top of the fourth, Taylor Ward took a walk. Calhoun singled. Ohapi grounds into a double play, but a run does score, so that made it 6-0 Halos. Now at this point, Jeff Fletcher of the OC Register tweeted, the Angels have seen 96 pitches in 4 innings. That's a far cry from 95 from Justin Steele and 92 from Joey Estes to throw complete games. So by the 4th inning, they've already seen more pitches than both those guys threw in their complete games against the Angels. So you can see that the approach was much different, taking some pitches and doing some damage. In fact, Joe Adell was able to do some damage in the top of the 5th. He hit a home run, his 14th of the season, and went 431 feet, 110.2 off the bat. That made it 7-0. The Halos scored a run in the first 5 innings, which really broke it open and was something they have not been able to do consistently over the last couple of games. And they had that long scoreless streak. Now, every Halo starter had a hit in this one, but really the other side of the coin was Tyler Anderson. 8 innings pitched, scattered 3 hits, 10 strikeouts, which ties a season high. What a start and a bounce back start for Tyler Anderson. He used the changeup for his out pitch, and the Cubs were swinging and missing on it a lot. He also got 11 ground ball outs. Ben Joyce came in and finished the game in the 9th inning. Anderson wins his 8th game. He's got a 2.81 ERA. He lowered his whip, his walks and hits per innings pitched, to 1.18 after this start. The Angels won it 7-0. Tyler Anderson, by the way, announced as the Angels All-Star for the All-Star game on Sunday. Of course, we're going to be talking about that this week, but what a performance by him. Well-deserved. Glad to see him bounce back after 2 difficult starts where he really had to labor through those games. So for him to go 8 innings and get 10 strikeouts was really great to see from Tyler Anderson. Hey, today's episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. You guys know I love sports. I love baseball. I love baseball so much I never want it to stop. And sometimes I don't know what to do with myself when the Angels have an off day. Of course, I've got MLB TV, so I can watch another game. And so when the Angels have a day off, I want my sports. I want my baseball, which is why I love FanDuel. FanDuel allows me to keep the sports going whenever I want. I can check out other teams and make it interesting because all I have to do is open up the app and dream up any bet at any time I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all their customers with a boost or a bonus every single day. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head on over to FanDuel.com. Start making the most out of your summer. Again, keep the sports sporting, keep the sports going. Whether you like baseball, basketball, it's all there for you on FanDuel. FanDuel is the official betting partner of Major League Baseball. Sunday's game, the Angels were right back where they started on Friday. They could not get any hits going. Jose Soriano got the start in this one, and everything looked good to begin the game. In fact, he began the game with a 1-2-3 inning. He got 2 groundouts and a strikeout. Top of the 2nd, Hayden Wesniewski, who was a reliever, has gotten starts this year because the Cubs have some starting rotation issues. By the top of the 2nd, he was at 18 pitches, or at the end of it, I should say. After a day where the Angels worked counts way better on Saturday and got a lot of offense, there sure were a lot of first pitch swings and short at-bats in this game, including Brandon Drury, who had the only hit until the 9th inning, and he did it on a first pitch swing, and that was in the 1st inning. So really, Wesniewski was cruising because the Angels allowed him to cruise. A lot of first pitch swings in this one. Bottom of the 2nd, Jose Soriano has another 1-2-3 inning. He got his 2nd K in that one. Top of the 3rd, Guillorme hits a comebacker to Wesniewski. He tried to stop it with his bare hand. Now, Dansby Swanson behind him made the play with his bare hand. It was a great deflection, picked it up with his bare hand, threw it, got the play done. But there was a part of me that thought, ooh, is Wesniewski going to come out of this game? Well, he didn't. And in fact, he stayed in it for quite a while. Bottom of the 3rd, there was a mistake in the bottom of the 3rd. It cost the Halos an extra run. There was a base hit from Dansby Swanson, then a base hit up the middle by Miles Mastroboni. Neto gets it, but he doesn't go to first. He tries to go to second, but no one was able to cover second. Drury wasn't playing that way. Neto thought about touching the base himself, didn't do it because there wasn't enough time. Also, didn't throw it to first. So there was no out made, and he needed to make the play to first base. So kind of a careless error there for Zach Neto, trying to do too much. And it came back to bite the Angels in this inning because there was a bouncer over third, so that scored Dansby Swanson. Amaya tried to take second, but he gets thrown out. That moved Miles Mastrobuoni to third. At this point, it's 1-0 Cubs. There was a sac fly from Nico Horner, so that allowed Mastrobuoni to score. That made it 2-0. And again, if Neto had thrown to first earlier, Mastrobuoni wouldn't have been on third. So it did end up costing the Angels a run on that sac fly that really shouldn't have happened. Soriano was able to get out of the inning with a strikeout. Then top of the fourth, another quick out, this time from Drury, who again only had the Angels' only hit so far in this game. Ward for the second time. Oh boy, Taylor Ward. I understand his frustration. I understand the plight of being hit in the face, and he got hit in the face again this season, just this week. It hit him on the flap, and fortunately, it hit him on the C flap on his helmet. And so that's just not great. And it's because everybody's throwing to him inside. But here's the issue. Wesneski was throwing these 83-mile-an-hour sweepers, and they start on the inside of the plate, and then they end up over the heart of the zone. The problem is Taylor Ward is bailing out on these pitches before they even touch the glove of the catcher. When it starts inside and floats over the plate, Taylor Ward is turning his back. He's turning away from these pitches because he's afraid he's going to get hit. And this is exactly what Mike and I were talking about prior to this season starting. We wondered, hey, is Taylor Ward going to be okay? Is his mind going to be in the right place? And when he started the season, to be fair, he was fine. And then he's been taking pitches inside. He got hit in the head. And so I think it's really messing with him right now. Just unfortunate to see. And I understand. I think it's unfair to Taylor Ward. At the same time, you can't be bailing out on those pitches, especially when it's just 83 miles an hour. Somebody's got to have a talk with Taylor Ward about that. Help get his head back in the right place. Willie Calhoun took a huge hack on pitch number 1. Again, they haven't learned anything from 2 complete games to 2 different pitchers in less than a week who threw less than 100 pitches. These guys are just up there hacking, and they just did it on Saturday. They just worked great counts. They just got done getting to the starting pitcher and the relief pitcher. Again, 96 pitches through 4 innings for the Angels on Saturday. This game, they're just letting the bats fly. So in the bottom of the fourth, there's a 2-out single from Ian Happ. There's a double from Christopher Morel. So Enright comes out for a talk with Jose Soriano. There was a walk to Dansby Swanson, but then Mastrobuoni grounded out to end the threat, so he was able to get out of the inning. Top of the fifth, another 1-2-3 inning for Wesneski. Bottom of the fifth, there's a leadoff double from Amaya. Horner gets a base hit to get Amaya to third base. The runners are on the corners. Michael Busch hits into a double play, but Amaya scores, so that made it 3-0 Cubs. There was a pop out to get out of the inning. That ended Jose Soriano's day. 5 innings, 6 hits, 3 earned runs, 1 walk, and 3 strikeouts. Top of the 6th, 3 flyouts in this one from Adele, Guillorme, and Shawnuel. I say that Adele had a flyout. And man, there was some weather and there was some rain and the wind was blowing in. I think Adele could have hit at least something off the wall. He had 2 flyouts in this game that I thought were going out, but I think they just died in the wind above the field. So that was unfortunate. At this point, it was 17 in a row retired from Wesneski. So bottom of the 6th, Hunter Strickland comes in. He gets a strikeout to Seiya Suzuki, a walk to Ian Happ, a fly ball out, and a ground out. Top of the 7th, Drury flew out. That made it 18 in a row. Taylor Ward hit one to third base. It ricochets off the third baseman's glove. And then that became the first base runner since the first, but it was an error. It wasn't a hit. So there's still only one hit for the Angels in this one. Then there was a balk that moved Ward to second. This was the first runner in scoring position for the Angels all day long, and it came on an error and a balk. Calhoun walked, so there's finally another legit base runner. Wesneski was pulled at this point, so there were 2 on, 1 out. There was a ground out from Ohapi. The runners move up. Then Neto hits a soft fly out, so that ended the threat the Angels were trying to put on. Matt Moore came in the bottom of the 7th, easily gets 2 ground outs to Zach Neto, then a 4-pitch walk as it starts to rain harder. He's losing his control out there. In fact, he lost his control that he just couldn't even put the fastball in the strike zone until he did for Michael Busch, who hit a 2-run home run. That made it 5-0 Cubs. He got Bellinger to fly out to end it. So the top of the 8th, another 1-2-3 inning, and it was the second time Joe Adell had a wind knockdown fly out that I thought could have gone out. Now, bottom of the 8th, Carlos Estevez came in because he hasn't pitched since last Saturday, and they needed him to because they haven't had the opportunity to close out any games because the Angels have not been hitting. They've not been scoring. It's been brutal. So he starts it out with a walk, a K. He gets Swanson to fly out. Again, another long fly out that was knocked down by the wind. So that was not just a Joe Adell problem. It was a Dansby Swanson problem. It was a Cubs problem. Angels problem, Cubs problem. Top of the 9th. Here we go. We're trying to rally. The Angels try to rally in the 9th, as they seem to always do. Nolan Shawnuel grounds out. Drury, first pitch, ground out. There's a 2-out base hit for Ward, the second hit for the Angels. Ward came out of the game because earlier he had slid into the wall trying to catch a foul ball. Taylor Wardman and Walls just don't go together. So Keston Hiura came in to run for him. Kevin Pillar pinch hit for Willie Calhoun. He got a base hit. Then there was a walk to Logan Ohapi. The bases were loaded. Then Hector Neris, who's struggled in the closing role for the Cubs this year, he comes in, but Neto struck out to end the game. So an unfortunate loss here for the Halos, just not able to do anything after pouring on the offense on Saturday. So that's how the Cubs series ended. Again, they only took 1 out of 3. This 5-loss road trip, the Angels were 1-5 on this one. Just absolutely brutal on this road trip. So I'm so glad that they're getting home. Now, there's word that Anthony Rendon could be back in the lineup tonight. Also, we mentioned it, Tyler Anderson was selected as an all-star. So we'll see what happens with Rendon. And of course, we'll be talking about it here tomorrow on Locked On Angels. Hey, I want to thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. The Angels are playing the Rangers, 6:38 Pacific time. You can catch every pitch of the Angels hometown broadcast on SiriusXM with the SXM app. Just search Angels. Give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels and connect with us at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. Tuesday on Locked On Angels, we mentioned it. Tyler Anderson was selected as an all-star for the second time in his career. How did he turn it around from such a bad 2023? We're going to talk about that. And are there any snubs? The Angels, all-star snubs, some Angels that should have been on the team. We'll talk about that as well. Until then, my name is John, and my brother Mike will be back with us tomorrow. Thank you for being here with me today. I appreciate you. And hopefully we can get a win tonight. Until tomorrow's show, we'll see you back here on Tuesday. Rendon's back. Oh boy, that's going to make everybody happy, right?